Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome along to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. Breaking right now.
But to all those whose information was compromised, I offer a sincere apology today.
Yeah, so pretty much every single national newspaper is going off on more explosive details about this Afghan asylum seeker farce. Thousands of Afghan migrants smuggled into the UK by our own government, who then took a super injunction out, and it will cost us billions of pounds. Meanwhile...
You know what I'm looking for? A good rack, pink and moist.
And ultimately, that's what did for him. Not only has Greg Wallace been sacked, but so has his MasterChef colleague, John Torode, after a complaint against him was upheld. Apparently, he used racist language that no one seems to really remember, but he did apologise for it immediately, and it was 8 years ago. But now he's gone, and with it, so has sanity. But he doesn't seem to be aware of what happened at all. Anyway.
Put your muffins in the toaster.
Your cooker's on fire. Tea towel's on fire. John, behind you, cooker. Behind you, John, you're on fire. Fire, John.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe isn't that observant. Plus, the Sycamore Gap tree fellas have, not as in they're two fellas, as in they felled a tree, but have been jailed for 4 years after being convicted of criminal damage to the tree, which stood for more than 100 years. Anyway, joining us this evening, we do have Reform UK councillor Jamie McIver. We've got former Labour Party advisor Matthew Torbe, and making a glorious return is GB News contributor Nick Dixon. So, there we go. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. OK, so let's get stuck straight into Wednesday's front pages. The Eye. UK offers asylum to 24,000 Afghans after an email blunder and cover-up cost billions. I mean, we've all had a bad day at work, haven't we? But The Express, Gap years. Yes, those two complete numpties who cut down a big old tree have got several years in prison. The Guardian, thousands of Afghans relocated to the UK in a secret scheme after a data leak. The Daily Mail, ministers still won't come clean on secret Afghan airlift. So basically the Daily Mail is now urging ministers to just be honest, really, about what was going on and the scale of it. And I think posing the question that we're all asking, which is that if you can lie about the largest evacuation in modern history, then maybe you're lying to us about other stuff as well. The Telegraph, £7 billion Afghan migrant cover-up. They've also got some good stories on the bottom of the Daily Telegraph there, which we will talk about. The Sycamore Gap pair fine, drought alert in the East and West Midlands, and Alison Pearson, who is their star columnist, troops sacrificed at the altar of human rights. This is that, basically, we are now potentially going to be prosecuting British troops historically, despite the fact that the IRA are off scot-free, and our Veterans Minister now might resign over it. But the Sun have got chopped. Torode axed by MasterChef over racism at work, which, again, we'll talk about in more detail, but it's just a complete joke. The Daily Star, sackings don't get tougher than this. They've gone for, again, it's the Torode story. The Mirror, BBC's kitchen nightmare. So we are the Metro, 850 million quid Afghan airlift cover-up. Independent, how we expose the email blunder that put 100,000 lives at risk and could cost billions. Every single national newspaper is trying to claim that they and they alone are responsible for breaking this super injunction. In reality, they all are. But anyway, the Times revealed cover-up after leak risked lives of 100,000 Afghans. Right, so there we go. It's a common theme across the front pages, and we are indeed going to start with it. My panel are here with me. And, you know, I think, because I haven't heard anything from you for weeks, Nick, I'm going to start with you on this.
Yeah. Great to be back, by the way.
Good.
It's so good to be back fulfilling my contractual obligations. And can I just say, this show is so much better than the last show that used to be in this slot. And I, for one, welcome our new Patrick and Ben overlords. That's all I wanted to say.
No, thank you very much. Which, in case you couldn't tell, there is someone just behind that screen with an AK-47. And now you survive the cold. So there we are. What do you make of the £7 billion Afghan migrant cover-up?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, firstly, this email, right, that the officials sent, they were meant to send 150 names, and they accidentally sent the information of 18,714 people. That's a bad email, right? Like, I sent one to the whole of GBNews saying sack Patrick by mistake.
Yeah.
But you know, that was not that many people. And I put a question mark in the subject heading. So,
and also, I deserved it.
You deserved it. So, 18,714 people, that is extraordinary. And as you say, 7 billion costs. Some people are trying to, in the government, claiming, oh, it's only 1 billion, Patrick. And now we're going to have to take 24,000 people, isn't it? Or 24,600, which is incredible as well. So the times when they broke it were framing it as a kind of humanitarian issue, which it is, because it's not much fun to be on a list that the Taliban might get hold of. But now for Britain, it's obviously an immigration issue. And there's even the claim that the government wanted this covered. Some lefties have claimed, Patrick, that the government wanted it covered up because Sunak was talking about the small boats and he was making immigration a big thing. And then this is sort of hardly in line with that.
Well, yeah, and also the fact that, unfortunately, and we had the graph on this on my earlier show, and we'll probably bring it up again now, actually. Unfortunately, Afghans are significantly more likely to commit sexual assaults than any other nationality currently living in Britain. So if I was the government self-importing a load of Afghans, I don't think I'd be shouting about it. But, yeah, there's a bigger picture here, Matthew. Super injunctions out on this kind of issue, relentlessly going to courts, trying to stop the national press talking about billions of pounds for Afghans to come to Britain. That's a shocker, isn't it?
Super injunctions is. Also, it isn't 7 billion. I'm happy to see the Metro's the only one carrying the true figure. It's not a small figure, by the way. 850 million. I believe 7 billion is all three schemes put together. We had the Arab scheme, the Iraq scheme, and the Afghan resettlement scheme. Journalists should be free and fair to hold governments to account. Governments will always lie. You know, this is par for the course, especially for national security reasons. They shouldn't necessarily be entitled to take out super injunctions. Would you have seen it during Watergate if Nixon had gone, do you know what, yeah, no, let's gag all the journalists because I'm in it up to me neck? You wouldn't have done. And it seems more of a recent development to me that this is what governments potentially do to stand.
We're being told, you know, look, gosh, we're all this wonderful diversity is our greatest strength. I mean, I think we've even got that on the front of a 50p coin now, haven't we? Diversity is our greatest strength. This is brilliant. And there's people in like Stoke and York and Preston that wake up one morning, they're like, gosh, is it me? Or are there just loads of Afghans here now? Were the Afghans here yesterday? I don't think the Afghans were here yesterday, because there's like 300 of them. And then you also see facts like this, which you're going to bring up on your screen now, which is like, oh, whoopsie-daisy, Afghans are very prone to sexual assault. Should we be concerned about this? No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about the Afghans and sexual assault. And then it turns out the government's got a super injunction out because they brought the Afghans here, Jamie.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have. That's exactly what they've done. And I think my biggest concern here, other than the fact I think this is, you know, we're importing people and not being transparent with the public, is it's the damage, the trust damage that this does to, you know, we want our government to tell us to do something. We all actually want to do what they say, actually. That's how a good government would work, where the people trust their government. What this does is damage trust in people's faith in our own government. And, you know, that's something we should always avoid. And I think actually there's a lot of damage in trust from COVID. People still haven't actually recovered from that. They don't trust the government. They don't trust council instructions. And here we are now. Why would people trust when there's super injunctions? People are going to be saying, what else aren't they telling us?
Do you think we just have to assume now that whatever we're being told by anyone in a position of authority is just a lie?
That is the problem, as you've elucidated there. There's one thing I've noticed as well. Some people were very in favour of the Southport details not coming out, or they sort of gaslit us and told us this was very necessary. But in this case, they might be more willing. I mean, I'm sure you were consistent on it, but some people are, you know, they're not consistent. They pick sides depending whether it's a left or right issue. This one can be, you can use it to attack Sunak's government, and Reform are using it to attack Robert Jenrick. But what about the Southport one? It's a very similar case. So I say, yeah, let us have the information in pretty much all cases, right? Unless there's really a security issue, maybe there's a slight grey area. But whether this was ambiguous.
Good, just on that, you mentioned, it's actually a good point, because we've not spoken about this yet. No, you're sorry, mate. Which is the political fallout. So it's now kind of like that Spider-Man meme, isn't it? Where everyone's pointing at everyone else. So could you just tell us, so Reform are blaming Jenrick?
I've seen Zia Youssef and Richard Tyson, an article, has attempted to blame Jenrick because he was in the Home Office at the time.
But is that not kind of true?
You could say. I mean, I think he was fairly junior at the time. He famously resigned over immigration. I know that was a Rwanda scheme. So do I think Robert Jenrick at the time was putting out super injunctions and had much power? Probably not, but it's convenient for Reform because they see him as a threat.
And then now what? The Tories just blaming Labour?
I haven't actually seen one. The Tories have been quite quiet.
James Carter's actually apologised at the dispatch box today for their part in it. John Healey also apologised, saying, I wish we could have told you, but we were...
Yeah, and because of super injunction, you can't even tell people that you can't tell them.
So
But you could have stopped the scheme, because but that's a little bit like more lies, isn't it? Because they could have just stopped it, because the revelation in the Mail is that in October they decided to carry on the scheme.
But also, by the way, Jenrick is not a threat to Reform. I don't think he's viewed as a threat. In fact, I don't think any Conservative Party possible leadership candidate can possibly be a threat to Reform. It's the collective baggage that anyone associated with that last government has. I think the only person I can ever envisage being a threat to Reform is actually the idea that somebody comes along that's more popular than Nigel Farage.
You might be a little bit biased, you think? I mean...
No, I am. Of course I'm biased.
They put out an article...
I can say, as someone that was a member of the Conservative Party, you know, when I was a member of the Conservative Party, Robert Jenrick, frankly, was a nobody. I'd be really honest about that. And now a lot of Conservative Party councillors who I was actually with today think that he's the answer to their prayers. Well, actually, when you look at the record in government and you look at situations like this, and I think there's probably plenty more to come out.
Well, I voted Reform, so let's not fall out. But
no, I'm not going to fall out.
But why has Tice put out an article specifically attacking Jenrick then, and Zia Youssef specifically attacked Jenrick?
Quite clearly because he was in the Home Office at the time.
Right, but they do see him as a threat because he's, as Farage recently admitted, he's to the right of Farage on immigration, so he is their biggest threat if Kemi goes.
Jenrick's always given it large about this sort of stuff and how, you know, it never happened under his watch, and here we are.
You know, they always say never speak when your enemy is making a mistake. But, however, just to throw a spanner in the works, Suella Braverman was Home Secretary, and I've not seen any criticism of her from Reform. When I asked a Reform MP earlier today, is that because she's going to be joining? He wouldn't confirm or deny. Maybe you'll know, maybe you won't. And I just wonder... And actually, the Jenrick stuff, I even said to one of Jenrick's team today who come over to say hello and said he was a big fan, which I thought was quite funny. He's an internet thing. People in the real world don't know who Robert Jenrick is. And that is... And his own team said, yeah,
I don't know. Okay, maybe, but I kind of don't know about that really, because I mean, I think he's done stuff. I think he's brought a lot of stuff to people's attention. You know, just okay, all right. His clips might go big on Twitter, but if they go big on Twitter, it does mean that millions of real people have actually seen them. So I don't know. I've just logged talking to Twitter X. Sorry, I've just logged onto it now to see what the latest is on this Afghan stuff. And actually, a lot of the criticism now is going towards the BBC, because the BBC decided that their lead, apparently, their lead story at the 10 o'clock news, and currently their lead story on their website is John Torode sacked as a MasterChef presenter. I'm actually looking at their... they've just got the thousands of Afghans as what's known as a nib on their site there. Is this part of the problem, Nick, do you think, that you know, a lot of the media, like the BBC, etc., you know, they don't actually want to talk about, like, the illegal immigration, didn't want to talk about grooming gangs. There was that thing about, like, oh, we don't want to raise it because we don't want to stoke racial tensions. They actually think that the biggest story for the nation, as do a couple of front pages, is a MasterChef presenter being sacked instead.
It's a pretty massive story, though, to be fair, Patrick. Someone made some off-colour jokes about a decade ago, and that is pretty bad. I mean, what you're saying, the media's... I mean, they are talking about it, aren't they? The media, they are covering Afghanistan pretty massively, but you think the BBC wants to avoid it?
I'm questioning it. I mean, there was an incident quite a while ago when the Telford grooming gang scandal happened. At the time, was the largest grooming gang case, Pakistani rape gang scandal that the country had ever seen. And the BBC basically had to be forced into putting it on their main website.
It's a bit farcical in a way, but do you think potentially they can't win? I think the Afghanistan story is clearly the biggest story of the day. I found it astounding when it came out at noon today. At the same time, if they don't talk about the fact that they've sacked another MasterChef presenter, then it's a bit like, well, why aren't you reporting on that either? Yeah. I think it probably should be further down the pecking order, but they look like they're hiding it at the same time. That's the problem.
So Ben Wallace, who I think was the Defence Secretary, well, for part of the time that this was going on, and this is, by the way, is not a joke, OK, has done an article in the Daily Telegraph which says, we could not betray Afghan allies who fought alongside us. It was not a cover-up. Well, famously, you get super injunctions out for things that you would be happy for the public to know about. I mean, it literally is a cover-up, isn't it?
This is what I don't understand, because, you know, I'm not doubting that the contribution that the Afghans would have made. You know, I don't think many British soldiers speak that language. So I don't doubt that. But what I find very frustrating is if the contribution was as significant and this was that important, then why not take the public on a journey with you? Give these people, you know, a really wonderful welcome. These are our heroes. They helped our servicemen. Instead, this whole cover-up, unfortunately, actually discredits that argument.
Yeah, and do we know how many it is? Because they say, oh, look, you'd be churlish to say, you know, we don't want people that served alongside British soldiers, but how many is that? Because we've got the 24,000 figure, we've got the 100,000 with the dependents that may come in or whatever it is. We've got all these different figures, but how many soldiers actually were there? Is it 12? Is it 1,000? I don't know.
Well, it's also like, what else are they capable of lying about? I mean, it's just this ridiculous thing, isn't it? It's like the Daily Mail have got a great picture on their front
page. Have you just noticed the mainstream media lies, Patrick? Because I feel bad for you. You're being red-pilled in real time.
I know. I can see it happening, can't you? There's a light going off behind my eyes.
That's why we exist. That's why this whole channel exists.
Planes after unmarked plane after unmarked plane after unmarked plane landing at Britain's airports with nothing but Afghans getting off it. No one seems to be questioning it. This is before we've spoken about the amount of people who are coming across the channel. Billions for Afghan migrants, billions for Mauritius, billions in social housing and universal credit for foreigners, billions in free cars for people who basically, some of them might need them, by the way, but a load of them are just lazy. What about people who play by the rules in this country? Are we not just being...
They're hated. Have you not noticed? They're the most hated people. We have a system called a narco-tyranny. I'm sure you know about it. It's coined in 1993 by a guy called Samuel Francis. Controversial figure. That's where the innocent citizen is punished because it's much easier for the state to do, while criminals run free, as we've seen with being released from prisons, low prison sentences, etc. It's a narco-tyranny. So, of course, the average person, our ruling elite, you must have noticed, despises the average person who just works hard and pays tax. They absolutely hate them. They love a sort of criminal migrant who doesn't want to eat chicken nuggets. That's their favourite person.
Yeah. So now these Afghans, some of them anyway, are going to try to sue the British government because we initially put them in danger, despite now giving them, like, a house and a better country to live in and rights for their wife if they want that and all sorts of stuff. But I do wonder, you know, were we able to sue the British government, Matthew, if, like, one of them raped someone?
Probably not. That's an interesting way of framing it. It's our fault, though. I can't help but come back to the fact that this is our fault. We invaded a country that had nothing to do with 9/11 because we followed America in there. We then followed America back out when they made a mess of it. We've had to do right by people, be it the translators and those that fought alongside, as well as because of the way we pulled out, the lives that were at risk because of us. And to top it off, we've had an official, whether it be MOD, civil service, whatever, send this email. And the bigger question for me, similar to the Palestine Action thing the other week, it's all well and good getting angry at them, they're idiots, fine. Why has nobody been sacked?
This is it.
Why has there been no and they said there is no evidence, and people even refused to resign, according to the Daily Telegraph. The gall of going, well, I'm not going.
So go on,
this.
let's talk about consequences. By the way, apparently, at the height of the Afghan war, there were only 10,000 British troops in Afghanistan. So we have now imported more Afghans than 10,000 British than the troops that we had there, which makes me wonder. Can anyone in Afghanistan just claim to have been an interpreter for us? I mean, so for 10,000 British troops, we had, what, 24,000...
No, it didn't work like that. So this period was my worst in politics. I was hauled in to help an MP that had an Afghan community within their constituency in West London. We spent 9 hours going over families who came to us, all constituents, who gave evidence of who they were and where their families were. The Arab scheme and the Iraq scheme, slightly different, were to set up to help people's dependents whose lives would be imminently at risk.
Right.
These people were politicians, teachers, academics, merely just females in many cases, because you cannot partake in a society the Taliban is running. Whole mixture of people, academics, anyone that was essentially preaching some element of freedom, and were largely westernised in many cases, had to come. We spent 9 hours going through cases and had to do another 12.
I just think so 457 British personnel lost their lives fighting in Afghanistan. I don't think I don't know. I don't think we treat our veterans as well as we're treating some of these people.
No, and this is what really frustrates me. Where is all this extra support that these families will be given? And by the way, this will be delivered by local government. The national government make all these mess, and then it's local government, councillors that have to actually deal with this at the expense of local resources, and no one thinks about those consequences. Central government is so detached from local government. But the point you make is very right. Homeless veterans, I think of veterans generally in the life that they have post-service and how little support there is. It's the charitable sector and the voluntary sector that delivers that, because our government and local government isn't able to. And yet you see people that are Afghan coming here who, frankly, will be given so much more than any veteran of our armed forces will get. And I think that is why this sort of thing winds the British people up so much. And it wouldn't surprise me if we hear a lot of noise from the public about this, when it really sinks in what the reality is here.
Absolutely agree. I just want to say on your point, you have a point, because Dominic Cummings has said that some of these people will be obviously dangerous terrorists. And he's been in the rooms, he knows the kind of thing, not necessarily on this particular case, but on these type of things. So what happens when one of those, if something does happen and you say it was because we smuggled in a load of...
We brought them here.
Exactly.
And that's the problem.
Sorry, I am being screamed at and called all sorts of nasty names. Now, before... Oh, grief, right, I've got to read this out as well. Before the break, I don't think it was this break, but anyway, before the break, we just wanted to issue a clarification on this story. Earlier this evening on GBNews, one of our headlines read that taxpayers have paid £7 billion on this scheme. Just to be clear, that headline should have said that £7 billion was earmarked for the scheme, but it has in fact only cost £850 million.
Oh, bargain.
OK, right, now, look, this is the stories on the front of all the national newspapers. So when we come back, I am going to be talking to a former MP whose area was disproportionately affected by this, but then I'm going to whiz ourselves on and talk about some more different stories, like this ridiculous MasterChef chop and a tree being chopped down. Lots of chopping tonight. I'll see you in a sec.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
For working class families, what are the fundamentals that they are looking for? They're looking for good housing, they're looking for good schools, they're looking for good jobs that give them a fair day's wage for a fair day's graft, they're looking for a strong NHS, and they're looking for safe communities to live in. When you have all of those foundations in place, then it means that children, young people, they can flourish, they can do well alongside their parents and their grandparents. And I think if you look at what this Labour government has done, we're 10 months into a 5-year programme here, by the way, but in the first 10 months of this new Labour government, they have put major policy reforms in place across all 5 of those key foundations for working class families. And so I'm confident that we're starting to see some of it here in Basildon, where Basildon is starting to get better again. I'm confident that by the end of this Parliament, because of what the government is doing now, we will start to see some positive changes for working class families.
OK, Christo, what do you make of it?
I think that Bridget Phillipson makes a very fair point when she says that white working class families and those peoples are being left behind. But unfortunately, her actions as Education Secretary don't align with what I believe are these completely hollow words. So, for instance, we've seen white working class boys particularly, but now girls, falling behind in education for absolutely years. So why Bridget Phillipson would then bring in a policy that is seeing, by the latest figures, 13,000 private school pupils entering the state school system, why on earth she would bring in that kind of policy, whilst then having the audacity to say that she's worried about white working class pupils not doing so well, is beyond me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. Right now, on the front of pretty much, everyone bar like 2 national newspapers tomorrow, it's all about the Afghan withdrawal, isn't it? The Afghan cover-up, I should say. The government's super injunction on it all. I'm going to bring in now the former MP for an area which basically saw a suspicious amount of Afghans rocking up one day. That area was Bracknell. Also happens to be a former military officer, former Tory MP, James Sunderland. James, thank you very much. Tremendous to see you. I'm hoping that we might be able to kind of do a little bit of a rotation of some of the newspaper front pages as well to get a feel for how big this story has gone. But can you just explain what happened in your constituency? So the Afghans arrived and we weren't really allowed to mention it, were we?
Yeah, we've got about 200 or so Afghans that have arrived fairly recently in Bracknell. Bracknell's doing its bit to look after the resettled Afghans. So I suspect that the share that Bracknell's got is very much in keeping with other parts of the country. It's a responsibility that's been given to Bracknell Forest Council. Accommodation's been found for them. And I suppose they're doing the right thing in terms of the humanitarian support being given to these families.
Is there no homelessness for people in Bracknell?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I've been of the view for many, many years that the UK has been writing cheques that it can't cash. And, like all of your listeners, I'm deeply uncomfortable with the numbers coming across to the UK. I have a real difficulty with the idea of the UK somehow being responsible for the world's migrants. But in the case of the Afghans, there was a legitimate claim for them to come to the UK due to the acute danger they would have faced in Afghanistan from the Taliban had they stayed there. And as a military man, having served alongside many of these people, they paid their debt to the UK. They are in danger. That is what I would call a credible asylum claim.
OK. I mean, a lot of people are pointing out that apparently the Taliban knew about this all along and are now saying they knew about it all along. So the idea there needs to be a super injunction is maybe a little bit for the birds. But I would just ask you, I get that this isn't, by the way, like your fault personally, but from an outsider's point of view, was the Tory government was responsible for the record upon record levels of net legal migration, and now they're responsible for, I don't know, somewhere in the region of 24,000 Afghans coming as well. I mean, good grief, that was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, 24,000 Afghans, to be fair, is a drop in the ocean in comparison to the other legal migration figures, and of course the figures that we're now seeing with regards to illegal migration by the small boats. I mean, I don't have a particular difficulty with the Afghans because, as I said, I served alongside many of them. They are in acute danger, and actually the super injunction, in Ben Wallace's view, and he's written a good article in the Telegraph tonight, was necessary due to the need to maintain
But he would
security.
say that, wouldn't he? Because he was complicit in the importation of people from a country with huge rates of sexual assault against women, and maybe it makes himself feel better at night?
I don't think that's a different issue. I think that ultimately, I saw your graph earlier. I mean, those figures clearly don't lie, but I think the migration of Afghans under a real threat of danger from the Taliban to the UK was a different issue. And I think that also what we've got to do is respect the fact that at that point in time, Afghanistan literally collapsed overnight. People were in danger. And don't forget, there were 24,000 people already on that spreadsheet wanting to claim asylum. So I suspect that the League probably accelerated the migration of those people from Afghanistan to the UK.
All right, OK, well, look, James, thank you very much. Nice to have you on, and, yeah, especially at this late hour, so take care, mate. All the very best there. James Sunderland, who was the former representative of Bracknell, which saw a huge influx of Afghans, but as it turns out, like so did everywhere else, and now we know why, because we were importing them. But anyway, there we go. Right, I'm going to talk about something else now. Let's just talk about this ridiculous story. It's on the front of the Metro. The felling of that tree, the Sycamore Gap. It was, quote, senseless bravado. So two complete cretins decided to cut down a tree, and they've now been given about 4 years, 3 months in prison. Nick?
Yeah, well, look, definitely idiotic, definitely awful to, ruin our beautiful country like this, and the tree's value is somewhere between 450 and 620-ish thousand, and, of course, there's the heritage element and all that. But it is interesting, you get the full force of the law, as Starmer would say, when you're a white Brit. If I'm just saying, if they were migrants, they'd have been able to say, it affects my mental health to not cut down trees, and they would have not...
There's a bit of eye-rolling going on here.
I'm so used to being on with comedians. This lot, I just go, what's he talking about? I'm just like, that's a normal thing I say all the time.
I think a lot of our viewers and listeners will be wondering, how were we about to make the Sycamore Gap about migrants?
I know, and I did it. It's amazing.
Within seconds.
It's 1 degree of separation.
You've managed to do it. So 4 years, 3 months, am I right in saying, Matthew, for this? Do we think that sentence fits the crime? I mean, it was a particularly nice tree.
Over the last 30 years, our maximum sentence length has grown and grown and grown. This is why we have a prisons crisis, because people are in prison for longer and longer and longer. I don't wish to insult viewers in the North East, but it's a tree. It's a tree. They've cut down a tree. They're thick and it's mindless. The idea that they should be served in prison, I think it'd be much more appropriate.
Oh, you wouldn't have sent them to prison at all?
Go and force them to give something back to the community in a meaningful way.
Like planting trees.
Exactly. What are they going to learn from being in prison?
Smack. How to use smack.
No, it's likely going to be the case. I think 34% of people that go into prison without a drug issue come out with one, or currently have one in prison.
Yeah.
They're going to learn nothing from this.
Well, it turns out if you get sent to Wandsworth, then it's basically delivered to you on a silver platter every single morning.
And Manchester and everywhere else. The Inspectorate of Prisons has said the same. There's a huge issue. But yeah, no, I think this is ludicrous that they're going to prison for this.
I mean, I think this must be awful for locals. It must be absolutely awful what happened there. And I know it's only just a tree, maybe to us in London, but actually it is awful for locals. I would like to see these two people in stocks where the tree was, so the locals, as they're walking their dog, can say what they think. And I think that'd be far more humiliating than sitting in a cell. But we should be humiliating people that commit offences. People that do serious and are a danger to the public, lock them away and never want to see them again. But stuff like this, public humiliation all day long for me.
Let's talk about punishment, right?
I thought I was right-wing. He's speaking about the stocks. I love it.
You've opened the capital punishment door here. So would that not be better? So, all right, instead of clogging up prison space, put them in the town square, let's throw, like, dog poo at them.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. I mean, look, I'm from the lakes, the home of trees in many ways. I totally agree with that idea. Stocks. I'm up for bringing back all sorts of... The thing is, we've imported a lot of medieval culture, so why don't we bring back medieval punishments? Just an idea. I sound like Leo Kurz. That's ridiculous. But, yeah, why not... I mean, the death penalty obviously should come back, but that's a bit of a... I don't want to make this show too dark.
I don't know
not
about
for this.
I think, you know, I've called for...
No, I'm a moderate, not for this.
It's a tree life, not a life.
Right.
Yeah.
3 lives matter.
I wouldn't be against public humiliation, though. Seriously, a little bit of, you know, the rotten.
We've noticed. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Here all week.
I represent Epping Forest as an area, as a council, right? A beautiful ancient forest. If the fault of someone deliberately cutting one of those trees down, I think it's awful. It's disgusting. It should be punished. And I like to think that any idiot thinking of doing that will now look at this sentence and think, actually, it ain't worth 4 years.
Well, you're going to put them in the stocks. We're going to throw a dog poo at.
Is that part of deterrent? Is that on Reform's official manifesto?
No, it's not.
That's what I'd consider voting for that. Anyway.
It should be. You'd win a lot of people over for that. OK, right, loads more coming your way, including this.
Put your muffins in the toaster.
Your cooker's on fire. Tea towel's on fire. John, behind you, cooker. Behind you, John. You're on fire. Fire, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's interesting there is that no one in that clip is currently in work, are they? So there you go. TV giveth, TV taketh away. A window into my future, although hopefully not for those allegations. Anyway, right, all of that coming your way and much more.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a breezy and at times wet Tuesday, showers ease overnight, cloud breaks up, and then actually a fine period of weather through Wednesday for the vast majority. We've had low pressure in charge during Tuesday. That's slowly pushing away into the North Sea, taking its persistent rain with it, but leaving behind a legacy of cloud and outbreaks of showery rain for central and southern Scotland, northern and eastern England. Meanwhile, the next low starting to move up from the southwest, albeit relatively slowly, bringing some rain back into Cornwall, parts of Devon by the end of the night. In between, clear spells. Had a cool start to Wednesday, but a bright start for many of us, away, that is, from the southwest of England, where it's going to be damp with some persistent and at times heavy rain. That's going to be pushing into Exeter, parts of Somerset, Dorset through the morning. Wales getting off to a bright start. Northern Ireland the place to be first thing. Plenty of sunshine here. Likewise for western Scotland. I think further east across Scotland, thicker cloud and some remaining showers. Nothing too heavy at this stage. And those showers will be easing during the morning. Northern and eastern England likewise seeing some cloud and some showers. And as temperatures rise through the day, there's likely to be 1 or 2 further showers developing through central and southern Scotland, the far north of England. But elsewhere across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, central and southeastern England, it's a bright day, plenty of dry weather and feeling warm once again in places mid to high 20s likely. A different story for the far southwest of Wales and southwest England. Rain here, pushing then further northeast as we begin Thursday. Not much rain, has to be said, for Wales and the southwest as we start off Thursday. The heavier showers move through Northern Ireland and western Scotland, where it will continue to be unsettled as we start off Friday. Further southeast, it's warmer, sunnier, and with temperatures reaching 29 Celsius, feeling hot again in places.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
welcome back to Late Edition. So this is on a couple of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. John Torode's contract on MasterChef will not be renewed. The BBC and the production company Banijay UK have revealed. So it comes after... he was the bloke who used to stand next to Greg Wallace and say slightly less on-the-nose sexual innuendo, but needless to say, it's still done for him. So apparently he said something in, like, a pub 8 years ago that might have been racist, which he immediately apologised for and now doesn't remember, and the BBC have still sacked him. So it's on the front cover of tomorrow's Daily Star, and I'm very pleased to now be joined by the TV and showbiz editor at the Daily Star, Ed Cleve. Ed, thank you very much. Look, what exactly is he accused of here?
John Torode is accused of saying an extremely offensive racist term many years ago while he was working on the show in a social setting as opposed to on the set. And there's been an investigation and that claim has been upheld. He said in a quote that he doesn't remember saying it and so on, but he's also in his statement tonight been very gracious about the whole thing and sort of accepted defeat and said, you know, I had a great time on the show, whoever takes over, make the most of it. So it's a very different situation to the Greg one, which was, I think, far more serious allegations, and a lot more was upheld, and also he's been quite sort of angry and bitter about the whole thing. So the two men have approached this very differently.
They have. Can I ask, and obviously I'm not going to ask you to repeat it on national television if you know what it is, do you know what this term is that he's alleged to have used?
I don't actually know what it is, but I almost think it doesn't really matter because people making these decisions are kind of have made it and he's going. So I guess whether we agree with it or not is kind of not the point now. This is what's happened. I guess he's like I say, he's kind of accepted it. He doesn't seem to be fighting it or challenging it, even though he's saying, I don't remember
making it. I don't know. You see, the thing is, I don't know, look, for me personally, if someone was saying this stuff, I'd like to remember why I'd been sad. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I had said something awful, I suppose. But, yeah, he's going in a very different manner. I suppose you don't get the impression there's an element of witch hunt here at all, really. And do you have any idea who's lined up to replace them, as presumably MasterChef is carrying on? So any heads up for us on who's replacing them?
Well, Greg Wallace was missing from a more recent series because he was already in trouble. And Grace Dent, who's been a food critic for many years and was on I'm a Celebrity, was brought in to replace him. Who will replace John Torode, I think, is sort of up in the air at this point. But Richard Osman made a good point a few months ago on his podcast, which is he feels like TV bosses are now more likely to hire women because there's less likely to have sort of claims from the past unearthed. Women are a little bit less hassle on that score. So it potentially will be two women. They already have two women on Strictly, so that's a possibility. I also think the BBC tends to have a sort of thing for picking people who aren't perhaps that well known. You know, they picked Motsi Mabuse on Strictly. She was an unknown. And Shirley as well. And then Grace Dent, I don't think is particularly famous. So it's possible they won't pick someone famous, whereas on ITV they tend to pick a sort of household name to try and get some ratings. So it's possible it won't be anyone we've heard of, really, I would say.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Ed, thank you very much. Really great to have you on, and especially grateful at this time of the evening. So I hope to speak to you again soon. It's Ed Cleve there, TV and showbiz editor at the Daily Star. Well, it's interesting. No one seems to know what he said, Nick.
Yeah, well, he doesn't even know. That's the key thing. I mean, it's so ridiculous, isn't it? He said something that was perceived as racist. He was immediately horrified and apologised at the time. That's even in the story. You know, when you're smearing something, if you're smearing someone, generally you don't say, and they apologised and we're cool about it, right? So it's so nothing. He apologised and then he later forgot. It's all nothing. And Greg as well. Greg's kind of... Did he do anything that bad? Isn't he kind of a...
I think that's a bit... Yeah, I think...
Isn't he an autistic hero?
Right, well, this is the thing. I think, you see, Torode's excuse... Well, it's not even an excuse. He's just gone, well, I've been told I said this thing which I don't remember saying and probably wouldn't have said, but now I've been sad. Whereas Greg Wallace, after blaming middle-aged women of a certain age, then said, sorry, I can't wear pants because I'm autistic.
Yeah, but
I'm starting to think maybe one of them is worse.
He's an autistic person trying to negotiate amongst these Machiavellian midwits who run these who are rife in media, as you know, Patrick. But not that Patrick's one, obviously. But what I was going to say on this, on the other thing though, the BBC, Patrick. I know I hate to have a go at them, but they're lecturing us about a guy said something allegedly racist years ago. They have trainee schemes that actively discriminate against white men. It's been proved.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm being told that President Trump's speaking. I would quite like to know what it's about before we decide to ruin the show. But anyway, right, so... Oh, right, great.
Mr. President, on Ukraine, why did you settle on giving Putin another 50 days? It seems like he's had a lot of time to show he wants peace.
Why did Biden get us into that ridiculous war? Why did Biden bring us there? That should never, ever have happened, that war. This is Biden's war. I'm just trying to end it because we're saving a lot of lives.
Why do you think his opinion will change in 50 days when it hasn't over the last...
A lot of opinions change very rapidly. Might not be 50 days. Might be much sooner than 50 days.
To that end, when do you think the first Patriot missiles, some of these weapons that our allies will buy...
they're already being shipped.
From what countries?
They're coming in from Germany and then replaced by Germany, and in all cases, the United States gets paid back in full.
Have you started?
So what's happening, as you know, is the European Union, if you look, mostly European Union stuff, but let's put it in the form of NATO. It's very similar. But NATO is going to pay us back for everything. In some cases, we're going to be paid back by countries of the European Union directly.
Are we starting to see those payments?
But we're always getting our money back in full. So we're not going to have any more investment to make. We're getting our money back in full. And if we can make a deal, that'd be great. We're saving 5,000 or 6,000 soldiers a week. They're Russian and they're Ukrainian soldiers. They're not American soldiers. And we won't have boots on the ground. But it's a shame. 5,000. Last week they say 7,100 soldiers, both Russian and Ukraine, were killed.
Can I ask you about Iran? Have you seen any progress in talks with Iran? We haven't really heard about that in a while.
Well, they want to talk. I'm in no rush to talk. They would like to talk. I'm in no rush to talk because we obliterated their site. They'd have to start all over. In fact, it's obliterated to the point that it's not usable anymore. They'd have to pick a different mountain. That mountain is so blown up inside and so unstable that they would have to pick a different mountain. Our people really did the job. Yes, please.
On the fence, sir, would you fire Jerome Powell over the Treasury renovation?
Well, he spent $2.5 million building this place. I have to say this. I think he's terrible. I think he's a total stiff. But the one thing I didn't see him as a guy that needed a palace to live in. You talk to the guy, it's like talking to nothing. It's like talking to a chair. No personality, no high intelligence, no nothing. But the one thing I would have never guessed is that he would be spending $2.5 billion to build a little extension onto the Fed.
Is that a fireable?
Nobody's ever seen. I think it sort of is, because if you look at his testimony to the House and the Senate, you take a look at the testimony, it's under it. That whole thing is, he's not talking about the problem. It's a big problem. $2.5 billion, and that's $2.5 billion now. That's going to be a lot more money than $2.5 billion to expand, and with all of that to house thousands of people to give him information, and yet out of the 71 economists, and they included me and one other person got it right. I got it right, and one other genius got it right. They had everybody else was wrong. 69 were wrong, and 2 were right. I was one of them. And I don't have a lot of people. I have Howard, I have Doug, I have a few people. He has thousands of people, and he got it wrong. No, I think when you spend $2.5 billion on really a renovation, I think it's pretty disgraceful.
Have you spoken to President Putin since your announcement yesterday?
No, I have not.
Do you think, when you speak to him on the phone, does he say that he wants peace?
Yeah,
What does he say to you?
He says he wants peace. He does. So far, it's all talk and no action.
Believe him?
But you know, if you think about it, India, Pakistan, we did so many. The Congo, and I mean, look at the deals we've made. We made all these peace deals. Look at Rwanda. It was an impossible deal to make with the Congo. I made that. I made all of these deals, Serbia, Kosovo, and here's the one deal. And actually, Vladimir called me up. He said, I'd love to help you with respect to making a deal with a couple of them, like Iran. I'd love to help you. I say, Vladimir, I only want to help with one deal, Russia, because you're the only deal that we're not doing too well on. He oftentimes he said, no, he wants peace. And I I think he does. I hope he does. We're going to find out soon. And it could be before the 50 days.
Mr. President, twice yesterday, when you were talking about this, you mentioned conversations you had with the First Lady after talking with President Putin. Has she influenced your thinking on this at all?
She's very smart. She's very neutral. She's very neutral in a sense. She's sort of like me. She'd like to see people stop dying. You know, people said, are you for one side or another? I'm for the side of people stopping dying. We have 5,000, 6,000, and 7,000 people a week, at least. And that doesn't include people from the cities and towns that are having rockets lobbed in there. I mean, people are dying in the cities and towns, too. But we're talking about 7,100 in the last 8 days died. And I'm for stopping that.
On the Fed chair search, sir, is Scott Bessent, your Treasury Secretary, your #1 option whenever Jerome Powell leaves? Or
well, he's an option.
Is he your top option?
And he's very good. Well, he's not because I like the job he's doing. Right. That's why he's not.
Both, sir?
I like the job. I don't know if he was on the plane. Maybe he wasn't. But I do like the job he's done. Right. So, in that sense, probably he's not that much of an option. Right. Scott's been great. He's been terrific. He did a good job today. He's a very soothing force.
OK, President Trump there praising his wife, which was nice, but also saying that she is neutral on the Ukraine-Russia stuff. Also slagged someone off big time, so it's like talking to a chair. It's like talking to a chair, but anyway, there we go. Right, there's something on the front page of The Guardian which we've just about got time to bring up, because this might be in the news in the coming day. And Nick, you know, it says Reeves, red tape, boot on neck of business. She gave a big speech earlier on.
Yeah. I hope it's not too dry, but it's just funny because she says she wants to regulate for growth, which is like when Ray Winstone says gamble responsibly. It's a ludicrous oxymoron. You can't. But what she wants to do is slightly reduce. Post 2008, you may have noticed there was more regulation because the whole economy was nearly destroyed. And what they want to do is they have these proposals to radically streamline accountability rules for senior bankers. I mean, it has been known to go wrong. And they want to do riskier mortgages. I'm like, I've watched The Big Short. That is how the whole that thing happened. But I do understand perhaps we had too much regulation after that.
And she's just also like just her saying it. I mean, she got no credibility at all, actually, really.
She's got no credibility because there's nothing entrepreneurial about her, and it's almost like, you know, advisors say, talk about growth, talk about initiative, but I'm Labour, OK, talk about regulating growth. You know, you can just imagine that conversation. And no one in the business community trusts this Chancellor. I think, actually, she's damaging to the economy, just her actual taking that office, frankly. And I think what we need to do is actually see some genuine entrepreneurship in a front bench of a government. I think that's something that this country's, frankly, never had, and certainly this government won't deliver it. But I think what we do need to see is certain regulations gone. That was the whole point, frankly, why so many people voted to leave the EU.
We do appear to just have too much regulation. I mean, there appears to be red tape and barriers, Matthew, to pretty much anything, doesn't there, in Britain at the moment?
I think some of it is good. It depends if you're trying to protect people from things. I have my concerns over this sort of stuff. I think the city ploughed quite a lot of money into the Labour Party pre-general election of 2024, and I think they're probably feeling quite pleased with themselves now. Whether we all are, I think you make credit more easily accessible. It's going to continue to drive up house prices, and people like me are going to go, well, I might as well just pop my clogs now. I'm never going to own a house. What's the point?
Please don't do that.
No, not yet. Well, OK, maybe not yet. But no, it's I wouldn't say it strikes of Labour values, put it that way. But then that's much of the last 12 months, to be honest with you. This is why I sit here and think, well, you know, we're just hopeless, aren't we? that's it, you know. Very little to defend at the moment.
I just wonder, at some point, is anyone going to ask us to start paying back our debt? Because that could be quite a big problem.
What is it, just the interest is $100 billion a year interest alone or something like that, just to service it? Well, like some sort of person who's watched late-night TV, taking out a credit card with a ludicrous interest rate, we can never pay it back. Debt isn't it? Musk is talking about debt in America, but debt's not even on the table as an issue. When it is, it'll be crazy because it's here was US, here Australia, everyone's massively overextended. I loved your sort of monologue there. It's so bleak being on the right. It's good to know it's just really bleak being involved in Labour as well.
I mean, it must be. It must be awful. Is it awful?
I think it'd be worse if I was an MP and I felt a need to have a party line to defend this stuff. I've always been of the opinion my mates back home would think, well, he's changed if I started trying to stick up for taking, you know, money away from grandmas at Christmas for the winter fuel and all manner of other things. So, you know, I have hope it will get better. There are plans afoot for next year. Let's see how Keir gets on in the Welsh and Scottish elections, and who knows?
You've got Corbyn and Jezza and Sultana are going to destroy you now.
That's big. The polling there is big, isn't it? So they're on 15%.
Yeah, what I would say, and this is not me doing my, message discipline, they took out the don't knows from that polling, so that has swung it big ways both sides. I caution all Labour MPs who were very happy that Zara was going to be
You said you'd spoken to a couple who presumably are going to remain nameless, but that surprised you and said that they were going to join the Jezbollah Fruit and Nut Party.
They were considering it when it's up and running, and they are members of the left. They are not the two I thought would be first, put it that way. It might not be a surprise to some, it surprised me. I'm obviously not going to betray confidence, and we'll see what happens. But no, I warned MPs, I said, whatever you think of these people and how unrealistic their aims are and whatever else, there will be a populist swell of support for some of the stuff they say, particularly amongst young people that maybe feel disillusioned. If you don't think that isn't going to eat into your majority in different constituencies, then you're mad. A lot of them short term, oh yeah, but they've gone, we're happy now. I think, well, you're not going to have
What do you reckon, what's the reform perspective on Jezbollah?
Well, I think to be honest with you, the Reform are very focused on reform, frankly, and we know that the people that are voting for that sort of party are not our people. But I think what's very interesting, you talk about defectors, there are people that were in the Conservative Party that have defected, and they are now running councils for Reform UK that we could potentially never have dreamt of ever winning control of. So I think Labour needs to be very cautious when they are just happy to let people leave the party and not listen to them. Actually, sometimes people get so fired up that they beat your big machine.
You say they're not your people, but I voted Reform last time. Next time, I'm going to vote for Jezza just to annoy Keir Starmer, and those are my principles. In my area, Labour wins such a crushing majority. Reform and Tory, they got double Reform and Tories put together, so they have no chance. So the only person that has a chance is Jezza and Sultana. I'm going to vote for them purely to annoy
Carol
Starmer.
Vorderman's to have a field day.
All right. I'm just going to give you a final roundup of Wednesday's newspaper front pages. We start here with The Sun. Chopped, this is the MasterChef axing for quotes racism at work. The Mirror, BBC's kitchen nightmare. The Guardian, thousands of Afghans relocated to the UK in a secret scheme. The Daily Mail, ministers still won't come clean about the Afghan airlift. The Telegraph, £7 billion Afghan migrant cover-up. The Times revealed cover-up after leak about the Afghans. So there you go. Yeah, most of the papers are on the Afghan resettlement scheme. We're going to have to wait and see if heads will roll. Thank you to my wonderful panel. Thank you to everybody at home. And I'm back tomorrow at 9 p.m. I'll see you then.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a breezy and at times wet Tuesday, showers ease overnight, cloud breaks up, and then actually a fine period of weather through Wednesday for the vast majority. We've had low pressure in charge during Tuesday. That's slowly pushing away into the North Sea, taking its persistent rain with it, but leaving behind a legacy of cloud and outbreaks of showery rain for central and southern Scotland, northern and eastern England. Meanwhile, the next low starting to move up from the southwest, albeit relatively slowly, bringing some rain back into Cornwall, parts of Devon by the end of the night. In between, clear spells and a cool start to Wednesday, but a bright start for many of us, away, that is, from the southwest of England, where it's going to be damp with some persistent and at times heavy rain. That's going to be pushing into Exeter, parts of Somerset, Dorset through the morning. Wales getting off to a bright start. Northern Ireland the place to be first thing. Plenty of sunshine here, likewise for western Scotland. I think further east across Scotland, thicker cloud and some remaining showers, nothing too heavy at this stage. And those showers will be easing during the morning. Northern and eastern England, likewise seeing some cloud and some showers. And as temperatures rise through the day, there's likely to be one or two further showers developing through central and southern Scotland, the far north of England. But elsewhere across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, central and southeastern England, it's a bright day, plenty of dry weather and feeling warm once again in places mid to high 20s likely. A different story for the far southwest of Wales and southwest England. Rain here, pushing then further northeast as we begin Thursday. Not much rain, has to be said, for Wales and the southwest as we start off Thursday. The heavier showers move through Northern Ireland and western Scotland, where it will continue to be unsettled as we start off Friday. Further southeast, it's warmer, sunnier, and with temperatures reaching 29 Celsius, feeling hot again in place.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel.